back to Cinema Pursuit. Today we have our first legitimate returning guest, Pat. Say hi to everybody. What's up?
Hello, everyone. Glad to be back.
And I'm glad to have you back. Today, me and you are going solo on arguably, we might be the 1% of the 1% that loves this movie this much. And that is National Treasure with Nicolas Cage, directed by John Turtletaub. Before we get into all that, Pat, I got a question for you. Where did your love for movies come from? Big question, isn't it?
Big question. Hey, do you like movies? That's basically the question.
like what? Like, why are you even here? Huh?
Never seen a movie, actually. I've been lying the whole time. My love for movies, I would say, growing up, my mom would let me watch like R-rated movies at like an age I should not have been watching R-rated movies. Like, I'm pretty sure I saw The Matrix when did that come out? 99. She bought the VHS of it. I didn't obviously see it in theaters, but she bought the VHS. I'm pretty sure I saw it in 2000, so I was like 8 years old watching The Matrix.
That's actually awesome. I remember I had my dad had recorded Matrix Reloaded off of HBO, and I remember just sitting there like watching it, and I was just like, this, you know, the fight that he has with like the 100 like Agent Smiths, the one where like Chad Stahelski was just stunt double, that fight. I remember seeing it like 10, 20 times, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I don't know if CGI holds up much in that anymore, but it's still
but as a kid, it was everything.
Oh yeah,
it was everything, man.
So yeah, I think when I was like 8, I saw The Matrix. Obviously, I remember vividly watching The Matrix, and I was like, I should not be watching this movie right now. And then I was like, probably when I was like 12, I stumbled upon Turner Classic Movies, the channel.
Yes,
and I
TCM.
remember vividly what was playing was All the President's Men, and I was like halfway through the movie, and it ended, and then I literally sat there and I was like, I think I just saw the greatest movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And I only watched half of it. Then I continued to watch that channel all the time, watch just banger after banger. And then I think the one moment that I knew I wanted to get into movies was when, again, my mom took me to see The Departed. I was like 13.
You saw The Departed with your mom?
Yeah, me and my mom would go.
That's a crazy movie to see with a parent.
We would watch a lot of movies together. I mean, I saw Wolf of Wall Street Christmas Day with her sitting right next to me, so...
So she really liked the Coke up.
Oh yeah, like the second shot. Like, oh, this is great. This is gonna be a great experience.
I was nervous watching that with Zach. I don't know how I have a friend that did that with her parent, her mom, her brother, and her grandparents. I do not know how y'all did that.
You just stare forward and don't say anything. Just never bring up what you just saw again.
My Asian blood could never. I would just be like, I'm out of here. Emergency. I gotta go.
But I remember we were sitting down low watching The Departed, and it was the scene when Leo steps off the elevator, spoiler, and gets shot in the head. And the audience just audibly, like one of the biggest gasps I've ever heard. And then I was like, holy shit, you can just like do that? Like, you can just kill him like that?
and then he proceeds to kill like everybody else.
Yeah. And then I think that, which is a weird, because like Scorsese's not, like, he's one of my top, but he's not my top. Spielberg is the one that, like, that's when I like went back and would rewatch, like, oh, what are these directors doing? Like, why is he killing these characters? Like, and stuff like that. And then, but I vividly remember watching that, and that's what was like, I want to know why they make the movies like this. So then that's when I started to study movies. I'd make really crappy like high school movies growing up, and they would turn into 2-minute trailers that I never finished the movie. I was like the trailer guy.
To get into high school, we had to audition, and it was communication arts, whatever it was. And you have to make a video, like a 60-second video. And even in like 2010, you have to like put it on a VHS and then turn it in. And I remember I made one. I made 2 other friends' videos for them too, and they still didn't get into school. Like, it was not that hard. They're like, oh, here, like come to our school, make a PowerPoint, and do all this stuff. It's just follow the directions. And I was just like, okay, cool. That was fun. I don't know. I made so many weird videos, whether it's like middle school, high school. For me, it was Spielberg. I saw Minority Report and War of the Worlds around the same time. And after I saw Minority Report, I saw War of the Worlds first and then Minority Report. And I was like, who's this Steven Spielberg guy? I was like, what's that director? I didn't know what it was. And I was probably like 8 or 9. And then it just started there.
Have we talked about War of the Worlds?
I don't know if we have.
Take a guess how many times I saw that in theaters. This was like right around that.
5, right?
9.
No. Bro, how did you see that movie? 9. How do you see a movie 9 times in the theater?
Obsessed with, which is weird because I don't rewatch movies in theaters. Like I saw Dune Part 2 once. Like I'll wait for the 4K. I don't rewatch movies in theaters anymore. I'm just like, I saw it on theater. I'm good. I'll wait till it's out physically. But I don't know what it
depends
was.
on the movie.
I was obsessed with War of the Worlds. Like I printed out the poster and hung it out on my wall growing up. I was like, this is the best movie ever made, in my opinion.
So was it like, what was the rewatch time like in between?
That was when like I feel like movies would play like throughout, honestly, like the whole year. Like they would play for like 6-7 months in theaters. And when did that come out?
Okay.
July
2005, right? If I'm
definitely summer sometime.
Oh no, or 2006 because 2005 was Munich, right? Or maybe I'm misplacing my dates.
It was
Munich
5. Munich and War of the Worlds came out the same year. I think it was July.
This man doing double. He did 93, Schindler's Jurassic Park. He did 2003, Catch Me If You Can, Minority Report, and 2005. And then he did what, like 2018 again, right?
2011, he did War Horse and
Tintin.
And you can argue, yeah, Ready Player One and The Post. And he also released Amistad and The Lost World same year. And then I think Always and Empire of the Sun were the same year, I think. I could be wrong. But he's done it like 6 times. So.
It's awesome.
But yeah, I was obsessed with War of the Worlds. Watched it 9 times. I love that movie, but I don't know why. I went and saw it 9 times.
I've seen Interstellar and maybe like Blade Runner, like 2049 are the movies where I came close to like, I need to watch this a 4th time. Mm-hmm. But I think I've done 3 at most. Interstellar and Blade Runner, I saw 3 times each. Except I saw Blade Runner 2049 3 times within 4 days. So opening weekend. So I'm that psychotic.
I'm pretty sure I saw War of the Worlds probably 3 times within 4 days.
Hey, I understand the vibes, but I was older. I was in college, so it's like that. It looks worse on me.
I was like 13.
Yeah, no, I was like 22. But that being said, National Treasure, Pat, where did your journey with National Treasure start? Memories.
I have a very weird memory of being told to watch National Treasure. It's not weird, I guess, but I mean, I grew up playing hockey, and in the locker room before one of our games, some guy's like, "You like movies, right, Pat?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "I just saw this movie. I think I was when did that 2004, so I was 12." He was like, "I just saw this movie called National Treasure." And I remember seeing the trailer for it, and then I was like, that looks too kiddie. I remember like saying that, like, that looks too kiddie. I don't know why I said that. And I was like, I guess I'll see it. My mom, again, took me to see it. And I literally left. I was like, I loved that movie so much. That was so much fun.
That's awesome.
I don't know why I have a very weird memory. I vividly remember sitting next to I can remember him like staring at me saying, "Watch National Treasure." I was 12 years old.
But it's like people singling you out. I think you can relate to this. Like you're kind of like the friend, the movie guy in your friend group or like whatever. So it's like people come like, "Hey, you're the movie guy. Wait, didn't you do this? Oh, I need movie recommendations. I need this from you. You need to do this." So it's like, whoa. I watch movies because I'm not that social. Back up.
They need me for the trivia, the bar trivia. I just get the movie questions and I sit there, and during anything else I don't answer.
But for me, I don't know. I remember seeing the trailer. I'm younger than you. I saw it on TV. I was like, this looks awesome. And I just remember him carrying the Declaration of Independence, and then getting shot at. I was like, I don't know what this movie is, but I need to see it. I need this in my life. So it ended up being on TV all the time. And I've seen this movie 10 plus times easily. It's probably more than that, because even now it's like, if it's on like Disney Plus or something like that, I was like, ooh, National Treasure. Let me just turn this on. And it's one of those movies where it's like, why are you watching National Treasure again? And then you start watching, it's like, oh, that's why. This is fantastic. The vibes are always fantastic.
And I think I've seen this movie probably like 50 times, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I always say 10 because if I say 10 plus times for any movie, that means I've seen it so many times I cannot remember. This Casino Royale, that's definitely up there. Some of these other movies I had when I was a kid, but this is one where it's like all like throughout the years, I'm constantly coming back to it because it's like a day like today. I worked all day. I'm tired as crap, but then I kind of want something that's going to engage me, something that's easy to rewatch, something that's kind of funny and thrilling. It's an adventure movie, action movie, and a heist movie. So that's like that's my bread and butter right there. I exist within those tenets.
Hits all the marks for you.
I didn't realize it. It's like I just grew up in it. It's like we haven't talked about Ocean's 11 enough yet. We will be soon enough, but it's just like Ocean 11. Like I've seen this one probably almost as many times. I maybe have seen Ocean's 11 a little bit more than this, but these are the vibes I need. I need the embrace of just pure absurdity, silliness, whatever it is. Just embrace it and just have fun with it. If you're looking to these movies, I don't know why people are like, oh, this is not a good movie, or like, this is just a family-friendly movie. It's just a good movie. Mm-hmm. Like, we can watch Tarkovsky, and then I can go watch freaking National Treasure, and I'm probably gonna have more fun with this than Tarkovsky.
When we rewatched Insomnia, I mean, the next day I rewatched the entire Trolls franchise. So I'll watch anything, man. I'll put anything on.
It's Justin Timberlake. That's what it is. Of course, you got to rewatch it. I will say,
I'm a big JT fan.
I learned something. That album that he had from like 2013. I really love that album. I'm not gonna lie. It's one of my favorite albums.
The 20 something.
The 2020. Yeah.
That
the second half of it. I don't know. I think it's just because of the time it came out. That's why.
I will say he is very good in The Social Network. I'll give him that. He's very good in The Social Network. For like,
what's The Social Network?
Never heard of it. It's called the Meta Network now.
My dad's literally downstairs watching Mindhunter right now.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I unlocked a memory, actually, looking back at the dates that this movie was released. Do you know why I didn't see this movie in theaters? Take a wild guess as to why. Well, like, what else was in theaters when this came out?
Ocean's 12.
No. Freaking SpongeBob SquarePants, the movie was out. So we went to go see that because of my brother. You know, like, I'm the younger sibling, so
that movie
I don't get choices.
That movie's great.
I'm a goofy goober rock. No. But National Treasure. I've seen SpongeBob SquarePants maybe the movie twice. I've seen National Treasure 10 plus times. So that means it's that means it's coded.
I know. I think it was that summer Miracle came out too. And I did see Miracle like 5 times because I played hockey. So Miracle's the hockey movie with Kurt Russell. So
go Flyers.
No.
Am I allowed to say that this time around? Last time you were in the dumps about it.
They're still alive somehow. I don't know how. They have 1 game left.
Hey,
I hate it.
They got to keep kicking, man.
Every year they ruin my life. Philly sports, man. I don't. That's just a noise. Every year. So I'm gonna start really, really broad. Do you like American history? Because I like growing up, I just loved history. So I feel like I'm trying to figure out the reason why I liked this movie so much when I was a kid. But besides it just being a great vibe, I don't know if you liked history that much. Oh, I love history. I actually almost had a minor in history in college because I took so many history classes and film history classes. So they were like, if you go another semester, you can get a minor in history. And I was like, nah, give me the diploma. I'm out of here, man. I don't care. And looking back on it, you're like, damn, I really should just win another semester. I had a minor in history.
True.
But I love history. I buy like history books all the time, listen to audiobooks of just history podcasts. I think that's why this movie also not really get into history that much, I would say, in this movie. Like, yeah. I don't know how, it's not very oh my God, this is a historic movie.
I think it's like a science fiction approach where it's like, you don't necessarily need to know the history. It's just, we're going to throw all this stuff at you. And then you just need to believe this, and we're just going to run with it.
Yeah.
No one, I'm not sitting here worried. It's the internal logic of this movie is sound, and that's all that I need. It is extremely sound. Whatever they cooked up with this is fantastic.
Well, it's all you need is that first scene with Christopher Plummer, just explaining the entire history of the treasure. That's all you really need. I mean, it's a lot of exposition. They do show stuff, but it's at this point, he's explaining, okay, this is the history of the treasure. You're either on board right now or you're not. And
oh yeah,
and he do it right away, and that scene's actually
is fantastic
scene. Actually, have
and
that.
We're gonna get into it. We about to get into it soon. Anybody listening, we just actually did on Pat has his own podcast, the Commentary Podcast. I've been on there quite a bit. We have a Christopher Nolan series that we're actually doing right now, but we did do National Treasure already. That episode has probably been out for 2 months at the point that this is coming out. But the day that we were recording that, I was talking with someone I know online. Her name's Marina May. I'm going to send you some of her work. She's got this fantastic graphic art, and she does movie reviews and stuff like that, but really just a really cool person. And she was drawing the Mummy, a poster for the Mummy, the 99 Mummy from Steven Sommers. And we were talking about I was like, I love the Mummy. that's probably going to happen on this podcast at some point. But we're just talking about adventure movies. Why don't they make adventure movies like this still? And she's like, oh, I also loved National Treasure growing up. And I was like, yes, of course, I love National Treasure too. And it's like, I was just like, the vibes were correct about doing National Treasure. And the problem really is, why do you not have movies like this anymore? What is your take on why do we get movies like Jungle Cruise and Uncharted, and those do not have any level of zest that this has? The Mummy, like I said, Pirates of the Caribbean 1, 2, and 3. Why do we not have that anymore?
That's a good question, honestly. Because thinking of it off the top of my head, like you just said, Jungle Cruise and Uncharted are the only like adventure movies I could think of the last 5-10 years, maybe. I don't even
abysmal.
I mean, I
Trash.
played Uncharted, and
But see, that's the problem. It's not like it's a bad format. And Danny Trachtenberg, who made the Prey and then 10 Cloverfield Lane, he was supposed to make it, and then he was like, "Nah, I'm out of here. If y'all don't want to do this properly, I'm not doing this," and he left. Rightfully so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if you played the game, that movie is nothing like the game. And why is Mark Wahlberg in this movie? I don't understand. I don't understand.
Isn't he supposed to be like a Latinx guy?
He's supposed to be Sully.
He's supposed to be older, right?
Yeah, and he's like, this is just Mark Wahlberg playing. I think the problem with it, and I think I'm not ripping on Tom Holland. I love Tom Holland, but I feel like Tom Holland just plays Tom Holland in movies. Like he plays Peter Parker, Tom Holland in movies now, especially.
Yeah, I mean,
Uncharted.
I just felt like it was flex.
I just felt like it was Peter Parker, like finding treasure, and then.
But I think the issue there, when that happens, is that they're not giving him enough to work with. So he's just he has to rely off of his own skills. He's like, how am I going to make this compelling? And obviously, he's been playing this character for 3 years, so it's kind of seeping into his soul. So it's like, or 3 movies, so it seeps into his soul a bit. So we get this. I wouldn't even call it passable, because I was like, why did I watch this movie? I could have just rewatched National Treasure. I could have rewatched The Mummy, whatever it is, and I would have had a better time. I would have been like, yes, this is the vibe. And then these movies have no vibe. They're just completely bland.
I feel like just Hollywood shifts every time. It was superheroes. Now superheroes are going down slowly. There's just 2000s, I feel like, and late 90s had a lot of adventure movies. And then once that Iron Man 2008 happened, it's people like, oh, we've made superhero movies before, but now they're a little more put together, and this is what I want to watch now. It kind of, those just take over movie theaters, and I'm not going to get into the whole Marvel discourse.
And it's like, I think it's just it's an approach thing, right? There's a formula that was made. I'm gonna go on I'll go on the rant a little later, but it's like there's a formula that is made for this genre, and you can stray from the formula, but there's certain bits and pieces that you need that actually keep you invested within the story. And it doesn't matter where and when it's taking place. You just need those pieces so it all comes together for a good time. And I don't want to go on a tangent about Indiana Jones 5, because it has the pieces, but it doesn't lay the pieces correctly. Yeah. So like,
I would say that was frustrating. I would say superhero movies kind of, like, if you really look at them, a lot of them are like essentially adventure movies. They're just superheroes doing it. So studio standpoints could be like, I don't need to make this adventure movie because we have Captain America 13 coming out, and that's an adventure. Like, he goes across the world. There's the adventure. So they just feel like,
did you? No, I think Zach said the same thing. He said Captain America 13 when we were recording a podcast at some point. He said Captain America 13.
It's like, I mean, there's like,
I was like, there hasn't been 13 movies, man.
There's been like 45 Marvel movies.
There has, but like Captain America, I'm being a nerd for 2.
I know there's only 3 Captain America movies. The 4 is coming out. I know.
There's 3, but there's like 7. There's probably 10 that he's been in. Right?
Yeah, so it's, but
even then, it's like
they kind of all blend together.
13's coming.
But yeah, I would say studio, like, essentially, like 2008, that Iron Man changed a lot of studio
and
heads' minds in The Dark Knight. Like, same year, Dark Knight's arguably one of the greatest movies ever made, especially comic book wise.
Damn right.
So from a studio standpoint, you're like, well, comic book movies have that adventure feel to them. Do we need to really have National Treasure 3, which they really need to have? I think.
And we're gonna get into it, because for me, it's like, y'all, they do not understand the pure escapism. There is no bit of escapism that exists within comic book movies. And I say that as an avid comic book and comic book movie and comic book TV, just comic book overall, just a fan of everything. It is not escapism to me. And this is the sort of escapism to where it's like, I want to watch this story about this man is going to the Arctic to find some sort of sub that ended up, like a ship that ended up there. And then we're going to go around the US and we're going to find these Freemasons that have this. It's like, it sounds like a conspiracy. It is completely absurd. And I love every single bit of it.
But I feel like you said, it's absurd, and audiences at that time would buy into the like absurdity of it. Like, why does he know all this stuff off the top of his head? How come he's doing everything so easily? He stole a Declaration of Independence very easily. Like, but you buy that. But then if you take audiences now, probably have never seen that movie, watching it, and they probably be like, this movie is stupid. Like, this is too absurd. And I think a lot of it, we're really getting into comic book movies now. A lot of it is because of that comic book movie mentality of like, how can you find this like absurd, but you can buy like a talking raccoon? Like, what's the difference? And I think a lot of it is just that people really only watched, for the 10 years, a lot of them only watched comic book movies. Like, that's the only reason they went to the theater, because Marvel controlled everything. And that's
a cultural issue right there. That's interesting. Okay. I never thought about it that way, but that is true. And for me, it's like, when you watch this, it's like there's every single word. Like, this arguably is one of Nicolas Cage's most like subdued, like actual genuine traumatic performances, where it's like every time he's saying something, he's just like, he's reading off the Declaration of Independence, like, people used to talk, people don't talk like this anymore. And Nicolas Cage is talking, he was watching, I think it was GQ or somebody, they have a video on YouTube recently about him like rewatching scenes from his old movies. And he's like, yeah, it's like the scene where he's like, I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. He's like, yeah, it's like, this only works if I'm like, I'm being genuinely serious. And of course they're being serious. The only way to have this be taken seriously is if you're taking it seriously. It's like, in a comedy movie, if you're trying to be funny, you're not going to be funny. So it's like, you have to play it straight so it comes off as comedy in the acting. And I don't think people understand the art of that anymore. Or it's like, it's just being lost. That is like, if you treat this properly, no matter what's on the page, it's going to have some sort of like good effect on like emotionally to the audience. You're the one who has to sell it. And I think Nicolas Cage is like one of the greatest actors that we have. And he really did, like, his name is Benjamin Franklin Gates.
What a name.
I love it. That's one of the best names ever in cinema, I think, right?
Oh,
it has to be, right?
It's my favorite name in cinema history. Benjamin Franklin Gates. Like, what? His name is like...
And his dad, I forgot. I'm pretty sure his dad and his grandfather have names related to
like presidents,
all of the
founding fathers.
It must be. And it's like Abigail Chase. That's a very, like, if you put two names together, like from like the 1700s, Abigail Chase makes sense even within that.
I actually think that's an actual person that was like a spy for, I could be wrong.
The British?
A spy for the Americans,
If you told me that in a movie, I would believe it. That's how good it is.
It's a great name. It's a great 1700s name. Hey, women did a lot. They don't get credit for the amount of work they did for the revolution, man. They did a lot.
It's 2024. They still don't. I don't know what else to say, right? It's been literally like almost 250, 300 years. Women still don't get their credit. Well, it's like they've never gotten their credit.
It's like Paul Revere. Like, Paul Revere was the only one running around, guys. Like, he was just kind of an asshole and just took credit for everything. As other people were like, hey man, I also was running around telling people that the British were coming, but he was like, no, it was me that said
I did it first.
So you think one man was galloping around to every city saying the British are coming?
Bro, he was mansplaining the revolution. That's what he was doing.
Yeah. Oh, Paul.
Paul Revere.
Going back to your, like, that Nick Cage, like, it's all about in delivery. Because that next line after he says, I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence, like, Riley's like, he like laughs and he goes, like, wait, what? Like, he's like, oh, you're like serious. And that's like the whole point. Like, he's delivering those lines so seriously, like he's actually doing this, and like you believe him. And Riley's just like, yeah, like, wait, what? Like, I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence. Like,
and that being said, let's get into Action as the Juice, because you already know what my Action as the Juice scene is already. We've been talking about it. Action as the Juice, the most juiciest scenes of this movie. 1 scene, 2 scene, 20 scenes. Give me your Action as the Juice scene, Pat, for National Treasure.
You definitely have the same scene. It's, I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. Like, that is the scene.
Wait, what? That's like, it's not even a scene where it's like, yeah, it starts all this stuff like, yes, let's plan the heist, let's execute this, all this crazy stuff is happening, but it's like that one moment of him just standing there in the National Archives, like looking at the Declaration of Independence, and him essentially going on a monologue, or not even a monologue, it practically feels like a soliloquy. Like the way that that Nicolas Cage embodies a role, he genuinely takes everything that he does so seriously, where it's like, you have to be that level of an artist, whether it's you're doing this or whether you're doing Shakespeare. You have to be the same level of artist to deliver lines like, we're gonna steal the Declaration of Independence, and then walk away. Come on.
Yeah, he like the way he like delivers it as he's like turning away. It's like, oh, that's so good.
You're actually right. The blocking is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
And you wouldn't think about it, but it's like the way that they shoot that, it's perfect.
Yeah, because I mean, he's essentially sitting there. He like reads, like, and it has like the inserts of the close up of them. Like they highlight the words just so you know where they are. It's like, this is like so like over the top, but it works. Like he's like, and then I'm gonna steal it. Like, I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence. As he's like walking away, like he's already made the decision to steal it.
Like I told you, I love heist movies. I love action movies. I love adventure movies. And right then you get smashed into them, getting into the process of we gotta steal the Declaration of Independence. How are we going to do this? What are the little pieces that we got to get through to do this? Because they have no choice but to steal it to stop Sean Bean's character from not stealing it, right? It is so crazy. Like, I love it. And they have sort of like all the elements when it comes to like planning the heist, executing the heist, him getting inside, having the suit, the tux on under the suit, every single little piece of like going in, getting the glass from Abigail, getting the fingerprint, typing in the password that she has, pass and stow, and then every single little piece. It feels like a heist movie, but adding it into this, I think it's John Turtletaub and the writers, they were working on this movie for I think a few years before they shot it, and I think it's a fantastic approach of adding like another genre to action, like to an adventure movie. And this scene, no one, like, we have a lot of American movies, but this is one where it's like rooted within the history, and this is one where you want to be invested within. Like, you're stealing one of the most important documents in American history, and you're just like gonna do it because you think it's and it's like, who would even think of this? Like, who was like, oh, we should probably, steal the Declaration of Independence. Yeah. And I was watching the extras, the behind the scenes, the bonus features, and they're talking about how they wrote this movie before 9/11. And then after 9/11 happened, they had to change the entire writing of the execution of the heist alone because they upped all of the like security measures. For 50 years, they didn't change any security measures. 9/11 happens, like, oh yeah, it's going to make it harder to steal the Declaration of Independence. We got to put it in the movie now. Yeah. So it's like, I love the detailing where it's like, anytime, this doesn't seem like a movie where it's like, oh, you have to go into that much detail. But the entire point of it is that you go into detail. I want to see Riley on his little computer, being the guy in the van. Like, I love all of that.
My only critique of that, like, of the security of that entire building is like, why is the password Valley Forge? Like, make it some random numbers and simple letters. Like, why is like, of course it's Valley Forge. Get it? Because of American history. Like, it's like they should just turn to the camera and be like, American history.
What? I don't know what that is. I didn't go to school in America.
Valley Forge.
Oh, I said Pass and Stow. Pass and Stow is from the whatever the Ben Franklin thing, right? That's how they find the Liberty Bell.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like there's so many details, right? It's like they use history as a base, and then we're just gonna kind of splice in where we need to have sort of narrative elements about this treasure hunt, essentially, right? And it works. And I don't think people put enough energy into making these sorts of stories anymore. I think writers do. Like, if you have like a book, like let's say like The Martian, like Andy Weir, when he wrote that book, he went through so much detail about like a guy getting, like, if he actually went to Mars, how are they going to Mars? If he was on Mars and got stuck in this situation, how would this work, right? And he's writing a science fiction movie. And like, I see this as that same sort of base where it's like, you got to do your research. These people who write these like Chicago like ER or anything like that, House MD, whatever it is, they still have to do the research to like make this make sense to you to some extent, right?
Yeah.
I see it as the same sort of writing where it's like, but I see merit within it. I don't know why other people might not, but I see genuine merit into just making something deliriously crazy. Like, please embrace this vibe.
Yeah.
I would say that, you know, finding the treasure might be like a juice scene, but it's like, it's not necessarily the finding of the treasure, but it's like them, you know, getting to the church, the whole thing with the glasses in the church, and then, you know, breaking the thing, going down there in under the church, and just like, you know, it becoming Indiana Jones for like 5 minutes, and them having to go through all the treacherous, you know, wooden, like whatever scaffolding that they have down there. And then them getting down there, it's like, oh, it's actually the piece for the Charlotte. We're making this go full circle in this movie. It's like, son, I'm proud of you.
Yeah. The Charlotte scene is actually the other scene I wrote down, because it's after that opening scene with Christopher Plummer doing all of the exposition of being like, this is the whole treasure scene. This is how the treasure happened. And then like the next scene is like, oh, he found the Charlotte right away.
You know what's funny about that?
What?
Production value.
I have that for production value.
Bro, are you? No, it is for me. But it's like, okay, what is the most impressive piece of this film? Whether it's, speaking of great artists, whether it's a film shot, moment, scene, whatever it is, where in National Treasure it feels like everything was left on screen. Nothing is on the sidelines. What is it for you? Because it's the Charlotte.
It's the Charlotte scene, because that's the second scene of the movie, that entire sequence. So it's like you had that opening of the exposition of like, okay, here's the treasure. Now we're gonna get to the first scene of he found that clue that they've been looking for like 30 years. He finally found it. Now the rest of your whole movie's hindering on this one scene here. So when they eventually dig out the whole like Charlotte, the ship, and then they go underneath. And then when he sits there, like, and he starts to essentially explain the signing and the creation of the Declaration of Independence, and you hear the music like slowly come in, like, to me, that's the whole, like, your whole movie's riding on this scene. Because if you don't nail it, you're gonna lose the audience. You're gonna lose the audience. Being honest, it's like, what's going on right now?
It's definitely Nick's performance in that scene, right? Where it's like, yeah, it's like you get this fantastic exposition from Christopher Plummer, and he's like, "Do you swear to do this?" And he's like, "I so swear."
I so swear.
And then and then it's like a match cut to Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. Also, why was he looking down while driving? Why was he looking down?
Hey, for cinema, we do anything because it's awesome. It was so awesome that happens. And John Turtletaub was probably like, just do this. He's like, why do I need to do this? He's like, just do this. Come on. It's going to look awesome, bro. Trust me, bro. Trust me. Every single bit of it where it's like, okay, they get down there, they dig it all out. It must have been hell to be in. I think they shot that in Utah. But it looks like the thing. It looks like they're actually, you know, in the cold. It feels frigid. And then they find the thing. They open up. He cuts his thumb to get the blood to read the scroll. And then he starts, you know, doing the monologuing. And it is so good. The monologuing he does in this movie is so good. And it's like, he's like essentially like Sherlock Holmes, but for history. And he's putting together the pieces for the audience. And it doesn't feel like he's spoon feeding it to you. There's almost a mystery within his head that he's trying to figure out, but it feels organic. It's like, oh, it's like, this is not it. And then we see, you only need one look from Sean Bean to be like, oh yeah, he didn't know, like, he's disappointed and something bad's about to happen. And you get invested into Nicolas Cage as a character, into Ben finding this treasure, and him as like the protagonist within that scene. Of course, we get Riley for the first time too. I know you have some differing opinions, but I do love Riley in this movie, and all that comes together so well with the explosion, man.
I do love Riley, but like, there's only so much. Like, his character is literally only there for the comedic relief. Like, all of his lines.
That's true.
Like, all of his lines are just comedic relief lines. I feel like he doesn't really have like any sort
something
of
relevant to the plot to do.
Like, I mean, he does. Like, he obviously helps him. Like, he's his best friend. He's helping him along the whole way. But all of his lines are essentially, and they're great lines. It's just, he's just very one dimensional. Like, he's just kind of just there.
Okay.
Like, he's just there to be like,
that's
this
true.
is the laughs.
Even in the second
here's
movie.
The serious part. Yeah. Going back to the scene though, like how once Nick Cage like does the whole blood thing and he like unravels everything, but how they like shoot that afterwards is like they just leave Nick all by himself while he's doing all these monologues, and they shoot every single person individually, just because like this guy is just so much like he knows exactly what's going on every single time. Like he knows, like they're all just like,
I live for this.
This guy could be just making this up, and I'd be like, yeah, sure, everything sounds good. The way you delivered it, 100% buy. I don't know if it's true, but I'll buy it. Like how they do that blocking, I think, also sells the scene, because if you're just shooting him sitting down like a 2-shot, like him just talking to Sean Bean, you're not going to get that same feel. Like this, he's just on another level with them.
It's almost like a showdown in a sense, right? It's almost like a Mexican showdown where it's like everyone is in their corner, and we see sides being almost drawn where it's like, okay, Riley's with Ben, but we see the line of like, okay, the other guys are very much, it's all about the money, and he's wasted this much money trying to get treasures, and he is pissed. So all of it comes together well. And I love the set that they built. And I found out that the set that they built was in LA inside of like a freezer place where they like store like frozen strawberries, a bunch of other stuff. And it was a refrigerated set that they had built. And the set deck for that is fantastic. And you were talking about how it's like, it kind of feels like they just reused pieces from like Pirates of the Caribbean. And that's exactly the feeling you want for this. And it's like they were going off of real details of like when Ernest Shackleton, if you know the name, he made the voyage to, I think it's the Arctic. For the first time, I think it was either North Pole, South Pole. He did one of those. And they're talking about how they literally found people sleeping that were frozen. I don't think we see these details necessarily fully in this movie, but all those details are present with the stuff that they put within that scene, and you have to put in the details. Those details matter, whether it's for the actors, whether it's for you as an audience, because that makes it, it sells everything. And another problem today is that they're not selling it properly, right? You watch Jungle Cruise, and it's your boat is real. Everything else is CGI. Blue screen. Yeah. And the blue screen, I don't watch these movies for blue screen. No one's watching these movies for blue screen. If you think the narrative is more important than the vibe, the style of this movie, then I think you're wrong. Like the approach is fundamentally wrong.
Well, I wanted to go back to your, it's all in the details. Like when that scene, when they enter that room, like it's the the detail in the dialogue that they give Benjamin Franklin Gates, that they give him is when he sees the frozen body in there. Like the line they give is, "Why would he be guarding this one?" Like he had his arm around that canister. It's like it's that level of detail to show like this guy knows what to look for when he's looking for things. He's not just, they're all just opening up all the canisters, being like, "Oh, it's all gunpowder," and then he's looking around, and be like, "Well, why is this guy guarding this one?" Like that's the level of detail you would need. And it's a very simple like line, but it works. You're like, oh look, he's smart. He's very smart.
It's almost the Sherlock Holmes archetype, but you kind of need that. It's Indiana Jones. It's not even, it comes from Sherlock Holmes, but it's literally Indiana Jones, what it comes from. And
what I like what they do in the movie too is they don't make Sean Bean's character like a villain that's like dumb. Like he's also very smart. He gets the same things done. He just does it a completely different way. He does it a very more aggressive way.
One of my favorite lines from Mission Impossible Fallout. He uses a scalpel. I use a hammer. So Ethan Hunt uses a scalpel. Henry Cavill's character, John Lark, he uses a hammer. And that's what it is, right? It's like one of them is using brawn, or brawn, aka money. And then Nicolas Cage, Ben Gates is actually using the brawn of his mind to figure out these details. I love that.
But to go back to your Jungle Cruise, it was the blue screen what we were talking about, right? Yes. I don't like it. It's very noticeable. When you watch movies like National Treasure, you're like, wow, like I'm sure they use some green screen in parts, but you can clearly tell they went on location to shoot this stuff. Like that's, and you get the feel of it.
It's literally, a frozen set put inside a freezing container place, like a factory in LA. It's in LA.
Yeah.
But it's like you have to go through the effort of doing all these things. Yeah, it sucks to shoot, but it's like it matters what's on screen, right? And it's like it looks fantastic. If you're not in a jungle or somewhere that looks like a jungle in one of these sorts of movies, it's not going to sell.
Yeah.
You talk about the opening of Indiana Jones, right? Or Raiders of the Lost Ark. Why does that work? Of course, there are parts of that are a set, but it feels so real. Every single part of it. Even if you're not invested within the big boulder that comes down chasing him, or Alfred Molina getting a beard in the face or whatever, fantastic effects even then. And it's like all those little things. If you're not invested within that, you're not going to be invested in anything else. And the production value for this movie very much correlates to that scene where it's like the Charlotte, this is what you need.
Well, it's like when they
This is how you do it.
when they go to Philly too. Like I lived 2 blocks from Independence Hall for like a few years when I lived in Philly. Like, so
America.
So like I know all of those areas, like, and they went and shot there. Like there are parts where you're like, okay, they went to Center City very fast. And like, it's like they made it seem like it was 2 blocks and it's not. But
Yeah.
they went to, they could easily have been like, well, let's just shoot this in like LA or Boston and make it look like Philly. It's like, no, they went to Philadelphia to shoot this. Like,
Let's double this in Georgia and get a tax cut.
seriously. Like,
I live within it, so I'm well aware of it.
but yeah, it's like I feel like just movies just don't, a lot of them just don't go to those locations anymore. They have their giant blue screen now that they can shoot any background on. Like they have that type of technology, and I get it saves money, but in the end, you're just pushing out a product that looks exactly the same as the last thing you just made. So.
A relevant callback is Roger Deakins, his podcast. He was talking to the first AD, Peter Cohn, of he shot Banshees of Inisherin in Ireland, and this is before they went and shot the movie. And he was talking about, it's like, yeah, it's gonna be a hellish schedule. We're gonna be on location. The weather's probably gonna be bad. All this is gonna suck. But I'm so excited to go and do this because this is gonna look fantastic. Compared to some of the other stuff that's being put out. And the same podcast, Deakins talks about how they will have VFX shots that come in and they'll be like, oh, it looks too perfect. And then they have to go and have a political discussion of like, there's someone in the chain that's not listening to them. It's like, you have to dirty this up to make it look real. And even the VFX people don't want to do it because they have a thing in their head of like, this looks correct. But the correct thing, quote unquote, for VFX is not what artistically or emotionally is the right thing to have within a scene. And if anybody actually cares and wants those emotional details, they will fight for them. And, you know, Roger Deakins is a GOAT, right? And he fights for it for himself. And it's like,
listen to him over anybody. No. Like, what does Deakins have to say about this?
And James, his wife, fantastic woman, awesome person. She talks about how it's like, yeah, we will have to like take someone aside and ask them like, who's the problem here? Like, who do we need to talk to? Because there's always somebody who's kind of like holding up the process. And you're 100% right. It's like, why are you like this person? He's a master of light. Yeah. And to say that, like, you have Gordon Willis, you have Roger Deakins. How many more like of those people exist that have that in their head, right?
Like, this man is knighted. He's Sir Roger Deakins. Listen to the guy.
Production value has gone off the rails today, man. My bad.
Listen to the guy.
But all that is to say, to bring it back to National Treasure, is that you need to have that style. You need to have that sort of juice within what you're doing, or else it's not going to sell one bit.
I agree.
Alrighty, on to dialogues. What piece of dialogues in this movie affected you? What do you love about the dialogue in this movie? I feel like we've already harped on it quite a bit, but Pat, dialogues, what's up?
I mean, I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. That's the dialogue.
Exactly. Literally on my outline, it said in bold letters, in caps, I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence.
And
that's
honestly,
all I wrote.
I was thinking about it. I was like, this might be one of the most iconic lines in movie. Like, people know what this line is. Like, they know where it comes from. Like, if you said, I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence from somebody, they'd be like, oh, yeah, National Treasure. Like, that's what they would say. Like, they know for, like, what, like, that's arguably, it's one of the, it probably did become a popular line of dialogue and, like, iconic, honestly.
Yeah. And they mirror it again in the second movie where he's like, I'm going to kidnap the president of the United States.
And you're like,
it's like, wait, what?
And you're like, it doesn't hit as hard.
Like, I mean, hey, it hits for me. Dude, I was invested.
Love me some Bruce Greenwood though. He's great in the second one.
Yes. I love Bruce Greenwood. Underrated, he is an underrated actor. I love Bruce Greenwood.
And Ed Harris goes all out in that movie. He's working. Oh, yeah. He's working.
He's like Wilkes Booth. I'm gonna invest into being the bad guy of this movie. Yeah. And we talked about the monologuing. Every time this man monologues,
I had the opening Charlotte scene. I had that. What I love about that scene too is when he's trying to think of like synonyms for like he's like, says something and he goes, and it was resolved. And he goes, It was resolved.
Resolute.
It was resolved.
Yeah.
Timothy Matlack was like this. He's like, he goes deep down and you're like, oh, he got it. And you're like, damn, this is so good.
It's a perfect mix of like the dialogue itself and the delivery of it. If that delivery is not there, if it's not, coming out of like Nicolas Cage and he's not doing all these mannerisms and you can feel this, he's doing this physical work where it's like, it very much feels like he's working it out in his head, right? If he was just sitting there and delivering the dialogue, like, okay, look at your mark and just do this, it would not work one bit. And it's like he has the gravitas as an actor to where it's like he's really embodying what he's saying. And we've said it plenty already that like he genuinely thinks this is happening, and there's this positivity to Ben Gates throughout this movie, right? And if he wasn't, if there's a bit of like pessimism that was within Ben, it would not work. Let me throw to a quote from Nicolas Cage himself, actually.
Do it.
He was talking about it. He was like, how do you take something profoundly ridiculous and try to sell it? And he's like, the positivity of Ben is that he believes it and he reveres it. And he finds it, like Nicolas Cage says, he finds it charming. And it's like, yeah, it's like these scenes, they're funny, but they're only funny because they have a very serious intention within within the intonation of how they're selling it. And it's lovingly shot. He also said that. But it's like everything is so ridiculous all put together where it's like, you just can't do anything but like love it. And I do love it.
One of my favorite lines in this movie. It's a complete throwaway line, but again, it's all about the delivery. And I think I brought this up in the commentary. It's when they're like running with the decoration, and then like Diane Kruger's character like gets hit, and she throws the decoration into the street, and then you see Sean Bean like just walk up in his like suit, and the way he picks it up and he looks, and like on paper the line probably was just "we got it." But the way he like delivers it, he like holds the canister in his hand. He goes, "Let him go," and he goes, "We've got it." Like the way he just says, "We've got it." You're like, oh, it's so good.
Ooh. Funny that you say that. It reminded me of the line when the whole heist is happening, and there's the showdown essentially in the hallway where he's trying to get to inside the elevator, and he's got the decoration, and they come out the other end, and of course he pulls out the gun. They start shooting at Ben. They get a couple shots off. He escapes in the elevator, and then Sean Bean just takes a full swing of his hair, and he's like, he's got the bloody, or what does he say?
He's like, he's got the bloody map. I remember that because they used that in the trailer for like every TV spot.
Yes,
they'd use that in the, like it was that became like the thing. He's got the bloody map.
But it's like that like Sean Bean, every time he comes in, he's pushing 100. No matter it's like a small role, whether it's Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, The Martian, whatever it is, this man's always delivering those lines.
One of my favorite lines is when Sean Bean like walks up. They're at the Statue of Liberty, and then he looks up and he sees the other one. He goes, idiot. He says, idiot. It's not here. It's there. It's so good. Like,
And I love, it's like the dialogue is fantastic in the scene you're talking about. I think the framing and the blocking that they have of like the geography of them showing them like every time, like you already spoke about it. It's like Sean Bean's character is always on their case. He's smart, he knows what he's doing, and we get to see like, from his perspective, him figuring out the situation too. It's not just us seeing what Ben is doing, we're seeing what his character is also doing on the chase, figuring out exactly the same thing but in a different way. And I love it.
We've got it.
He's got the bloody map.
I just want to watch that scene. We've got it,
guys. Now we're just forget about it. We're gonna cancel the pod now. We're actually gonna just watch the movie again because it's Saturday night. It's the vibes. National Treasure yet again.
I think that's when we recorded on a Saturday night too. We recorded on a Saturday night too for the commentary.
But that's what I'm telling you. It's like I'm tired. Like, can we just watch National Treasure, please? I'm begging you. But do you know what else is fantastic in this movie?
The score.
It's the music. So the Layla, the best needle dropper used to score in this movie. Do you have a Layla for this movie, for National Treasure?
I actually do. It is the Charlotte scene after they have their whole the ship's on basically on fire because all the gunpowder, and it cuts to when Sean Bean and the other bad guy are running out, and the music's like, I don't know how to explain it. It just picks up right there. Like it's kind of like the theme of when they're always on the chase. I don't know. Yeah. Whenever I hear that, it's like I listen to the score still all the time when I'm at work. Yeah, it's like da, 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 da. But that's like that theme always just reminds me, like, I mean, there really isn't like the only like I don't know. There's not like a
motif,
like a hit song that's going to randomly appear in this movie, because that would be just like really weird. Like, why is there this song playing?
If this movie came out like a couple years later, there'd probably be like a Linkin Park song, like, you know, Transformer vibes.
Every movie should end with Linkin Park. Just that part.
Hey, I'll petition for it. I would love it. I mean, we watched Insomnia. I think Coldplay is playing in that. Like, why don't we just have, you know, Linkin Park? Linkin Park is better than that.
But yeah, I don't know. That's the only thing I really have. I mean, the score is, I think, incredibly underrated by Trevor Rabin. I think
it's something where, yeah, Trevor Rabin. I've got this suite, and I listen to it. That scores playlist I talked about that I have, you know, for many years, that I have that on there. And every time it comes on, it's like, oh, we getting something done. Something's getting done today. We searching for the treasure. We making this heist happen. Something's happening right now.
And it works in that opening, like the scene of him. We keep going back to the Charlotte scene, but I think that's like the best scene in the movie. But when he's explaining to everything and you have the music slowly come in, it's like a hopeful, patriotic, historical like vibe of like, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like, he knows American history, this guy.
Most definitely. And for me, it's like, I think it's something where there's a very fine line of, it feels like a 2000 score. There's a bit of that sort of music in there. But it doesn't feel like it's 100% 2000s or like 90s. If you listen to, I was rewatching GoldenEye a couple years ago, and the score compared to what's being like true, Alec Trevelyan, yes, 009, or is he 009? Whatever. Okay, but the score in that movie, there's like a chase in the beginning of it. I think Mark Mancina did the music for it, but it feels so like 90s. It feels almost out of place in that movie nowadays compared to other Bond movies. And it's just like, they, like Trevor Rabin, I assume John Turtletaub, they understood that there's almost this, you have to have some sort of motif. You have to have these certain pieces of music in an adventure movie. And they hit those pieces, but they keep it relevant in terms of the music too at the same time. Very fine, you know, there's a calculus to it where you have to optimize the situation. They pulled it off. It is a banger, and I want to hear it in a new movie. I want to hear it in National Treasure 3, please.
Yes, we need 3. You hear that, Mr. Bob Iger?
And considering that, I don't want them to recast the movie. But if we had to recast the movie, who should have been this movie, Pat? Come on, let's recast the role. National Treasure, do you have a recast for any of these lovely characters of this gem?
I do. It took me a while to think of this. It's only for Benjamin Franklin Gates. It's the only one.
Let him cook.
Let me cook.
Let him cook. Let him cook.
I don't know how you're going to feel about it. I don't know. I put Clive Owen as Benjamin Franklin Gates. How do you feel about that?
I love Clive Owen. And I think it's a different demeanor almost of having a British guy do it, but I would love to see it, especially in the early, like in that era. Like Clive Owen was the dude, man.
I think it could work.
He has that same sort of like charisma that Nick Cage has, where it's like, if he said something, if like maybe like slap on some glasses on him, like that looks like a knowledgeable man right there.
He's got glasses in Born Identity. You just take that character right there.
That's what I was thinking about.
I don't know. I was like, they kind of have the same like look kind of too. Like, I feel like they're like, they could be kind of the same height too. I don't know. Nick Cage is like probably like 6'4", but like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, they're both tall guys. I love it. I love Clive Owen. He doesn't get his due nowadays. Like the last time he has a Monchois Spade from Scott Frank that just came out on AMC, I think. I still need to watch it. I've been spoiled. Scott Frank, Steve Zalian, some of like my favorite creators that have shows out right now. I'm behind right now. I'll tell you that. And Shogun, obviously.
I have Clive Owen. So who did you recast?
So I couldn't recast Riley, but I did think of a 1-2 punch of Abigail and Ben Gates. For Ben Gates, if I was making this movie today, roughly, Oscar Isaac.
I like it. Oh wait, can I guess the next one?
Go ahead.
Jessica Chastain.
Almost happened. I said Natalie Portman, but literally it says Natalie Portman or Jessica Chastain. I was thinking Natalie Portman first, but then I was like, Scenes of Marriage. I know they have that fantastic chemistry,
yeah,
and it would work. They have a very palpable chemistry that you want to see in a movie like this. You talk about like Romancing in the Stone, right? Like that sort of vibe. This would work. This would very much be something that you want to see, and I would eat it up. I would eat it up so much.
I'd be there day one.
Yes. As long as it's not a remake, I'll tell you that. Like, just put them in a different adventure movie, please, for the love of God. And
I mean, I guess you could. Could remake Romancing the Stone, whatever, with them. But
I mean, give Bob Zemeckis something to do. I don't know what else to say.
he's got a movie coming out with Hanks and Robin Wright.
I'm excited, man.
Forrest Gump team up. We'll see.
Yes, please.
I'll always go to bat for Bobby Zemeckis, even though he's kind of lost a little bit. But
Bobby Z, we are supporters, man. Come find us, please. Come on the pod.
Come on the pod.
Come
Bobby.
on the pod. We'll run a commentary and we'll run a pod.
Yeah. We'll watch Back to the Future. It'll be fun.
Imagine that. I would lose my mind. I'd be.
It would just be him talking.
Bricks.
It'd be him talking and me not saying anything. It'd just be like,
oh yeah, that's
cool.
That's true. I never thought about it that way.
Anyway, like, what's your favorite color?
Alrighty, on to soapbox takes. We've taken out the hot takes. We hit them with the soapbox. I got to get on my soapbox, and I've got to take about adventure movies. And I really do. My fear is that the studios do not understand what the formula is for adventure movies anymore. We've talked about it before, that there seems to be this melding of high budget movies to comic book movies, and they're not making adventure movies per se anymore. They're just trying to throw the elements into other movies, but they're not understanding what the process is. What movie made this formula? What is the formula to you, in your opinion, of an action adventure movie?
I would say, if you're going to do like a modern, I mean, I guess you can't really make them anymore, but Romancing the Stone to me is like that's the formula of like that action, adventure, romance, everything comedy in it.
What about Indiana Jones though?
That's true.
They both follow the same formula where it's like, okay, you have this protagonist, you love him, low-key, he might not be a good dude, but it's like, you're invested within him, right? And he's got to have some sort of love story going on. There is a crazy out the door plot going on with all this crazy stuff, but it's mainly the chemistry of like, your main love interests, the acting. It's fantastic just overall. You have to have the comedy, you have to have the thrill, you have to have all these different things that are working, some high octane just working around the clock, right? You're talking about Riley, right?
Mm-hmm.
That comedy is really punching, right? Like, whether you want it or not, at every single point, the movie is serious and it's got the action, it's thrilling, and it's comedy. There's also this love that's brewing. And if you look at any of these movies, whether it's Romancing the Stone, The Mummy, Pirates of the Caribbean, and you can go through the list. You can look at every single one of these movies. Everyone has a love story. Everyone has this crazy plot. Everyone has comedy, action, thrill. And at the end of the movie, you actually feel like you've been through an adventure, right? You feel the emotion of that. But why is it that I watch, like I said, Jungle Cruise or Uncharted, and you're trying to make a movie of the same genre, same subgenre, and it doesn't feel like you're in the same place. It feels like you're just kind of like haphazardly walking through this plot. It doesn't feel like you're engaging or embracing it. And it's everything of like a narrative thing. It's a filmmaking perspective that you need to have on it. And it's just a simple thing where it's like, you have to have zest for every single moment. If you are not invested in it, how's your audience going to be invested in the movie that you're making? And I don't know if you've seen like the behind the scenes, or you can see it on screen for movies like this, Pirates of the Caribbean, where it's like they're really doing some of these crazy things. Of course, there's CGI in there, but they're using CGI to like cover up stunts or make something look a little bit better, or literally look at like Barbossa in the in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. They have these full CG characters and they're affecting the plot in a good way. It's horrifying to see those characters, right? I have a lot of feelings about these adventure movies, and it's like, it's frustrating to see that they don't understand these devices anymore.
It's interesting that you brought up, because I never really thought about National Treasure is kind of essentially a reimagining like from Indiana Jones, because they're both like historian guys, and in general, you basically just have the Riley character that's just different. Like, you essentially you're taking the idea of Indiana Jones and making it modern day.
Exactly.
Like they go down to that at the end of the movie. It's not like a cave, but it's like a underground area.
A tomb.
It's like it's a tomb,
with cobwebs, and you have like the fire on the on the thing.
Yeah, he's like the national like he's the Indiana Jones. His dad would be like Sean Connery. Like, he's like, it's the same thing. He did the same thing.
That's true. And they have a dynamic within the movie.
Yeah, he did the same thing. I was like, that you just brought that up. I was like, wait. That's why I was sitting there for a bit. I was like, was imagining like this is the same.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, so anytime you have a formula, right? Whether it's this genre, whether it's a heist movie, whether it's any single genre, you have certain conventions within the writing that's like, okay, if I'm making this movie, I have to hit X, Y, and Z. But the way that you change the perspective of like, okay, here's my setting change, here's my character change, their background change. We're going to change these things and we're going to make it work. But it's like certain movies, they don't understand that. It's like if I told you to name the character name that The Rock plays in Jungle Cruise, I wouldn't tell you to name Nathan Drake because, like, you know, the game is awesome, but you get what I mean. It's like,
give me 2 million guesses, I would never get it.
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson? That's
like,
his name?
No. I don't know his name. I don't even want to look up his name. But it's like, it's generic drab to me. That's what it feels like. There's no zest within it.
And I feel like a lot of it has to do with, like, if you go back to old Hollywood, like a lot of like the directors they would sign actors with, which you actually kind of seeing now, like Timothée Chalamet signed into Warner Brothers, like Tom Cruise essentially like only works at Paramount. Like people are actually signing overall deals now. And like back old Hollywood, like those directors and actors would only sign to like one studio. Like they can't go anywhere else. Yeah. And they'd be constrained. The directors would be constrained to what the studio wanted, but you could still see their style within what they were making. Like you could watch a movie and be like, oh, like Howard Hawks made this movie.
Billy Wilder made this movie.
Billy Wilder made this movie.
Yeah.
And even getting into like up to like the 2000s and everything, like there's still some sort of like style. Like I don't think John Turtletaub has like a distinct style. Like people don't even know who that guy is. Like most people don't know who that guy is. But there is some sort of style to this movie compared to say like a Jungle. And I think a lot of it has to do with now.
So here, let me take over real quick. So you're bringing up style. Actually, let me. I was scrolling. I follow a lot of like film accounts, and something came up that is very much on point of what we're talking about today. This is from the great legendary Guillermo del Toro.
As a movie, even critically, it discusses what is it about, what characters in there, what are the plot points, blah blah blah. We seldom discuss the style, which style is substance. You know, in our craft, the style is substance. Is the difference between eye candy and eye protein. You know, eye candy is just there to please you. Eye protein is there to nurture the story. And color is a huge part of it. And I always say the analogy of our craft with other crafts that are really analyzed is as if a painting by Van Gogh was a movie. You would say, how was the painting? And I say, it's about a bedroom with a bed and a chair and a window. Oh God, I'm not gonna go see that. You know?
So it's like you get the point where it's like the main part of what Del Toro is saying is it eye candy or is it eye protein? And someone who's a bit in the news recently in the last week or so is Zack Snyder. And I think he has a very deft eye for style. I think he's got great style, but his style, it's not necessarily eye protein. It's nothing that's, you know, punching up the movie or it's like, this is, you know, affecting me emotionally in any way, in a certain way. It's like he's got good pieces, but the pieces do not bring magnitude to the overall emotional piece itself. So you need style, but there you have to very much curate the style that you have. And look at Dune Part 2. The style, the entire thing, where it's Patrice Vermette production design, whether it's Greg Fraser behind the camera, whether it's anybody else in between. The movie feels like a very singular style, and that is something that you can pull from. This is unabashedly this one thing. I was rewatching one of your favorite movies, The Fellowship of the Ring, the extended version. I got in 30 minutes.
Always.
And it's like you watch the flashback scenes, and then you move into the whole area, like the whole setting of the Shire, right? And it's like the juxtaposition of like the dire circumstances of the Ring juxtaposed to like New Zealand, to the Shire, and these people just like, you know, being jolly, and, you know, Howard Shore's music just swelling and just like taking your soul away. And it's like that style. There's a style, there's an intention behind what Peter Jackson is doing there. And it's like, it's like even Turtletaub, who he doesn't exactly have some like grand career, but it's like with this movie, with National Treasure 2, he was able to craft a style that he obviously had within his head that really makes these movies work. And if it didn't feel like this wayfaring adventure through the times, you know, through historical times that ends up being in contemporary today, that you're trying to find this treasure and all these things are going on in Washington, D.C., in Philadelphia, if that wasn't, you know, the vibe, then it wouldn't work. If he didn't have that style, it wouldn't work, right? And it's like, you need the eye protein. This movie is full of eye protein, isn't it? The Charlotte, we're talking about the Charlotte. The Charlotte is protein, like, is so much protein.
Yeah, but what I was like saying was like to go along with the style is I feel like studios, because movies would essentially make money, they would give certain directors, even though it's a studio movie, they'll let them kind of do some of their own stuff. Like, but since back to comic book, Marvel, that 2008, I mean, and a lot of it now is streaming. These studios don't want people taking risks with style. That's why people, like, if you go on Twitter, you see people say like everything looks the same. And I always say there's a reason why everything looks the same now. It's because these studios, they want everything to feel like it's their brand now. Because I mean, again, I think I own I'm not hating on Marvel.
It's just they're the easiest example for us to give, especially like because everybody's seen these movies. It's like if I was in the 90s, I'd be talking about freaking Speed, you know? Except Speed is fantastic.
But those 90s movies, all those action movies felt different. Like a lot of these superhero movies now just feel the same. It's a product that is being put out, and that's my only critique with Marvel. And I watch every single one. I'll be there watching Deadpool. Like I'm gonna be there.
100%
but
same here.
There is an argument to it that these types of movies have really hurt directors, actors, producers, other people behind the camera of creating a certain style. Now, I'm not saying that obviously like there's style within like directors coming up. Obviously they have style, but those are low budget movies. These studio movies now, like
they're being hindered by the process, right? It's like everyone who has input. I think PTA was talking about from his it was advice he got from his producer that it's like, okay, if they give you the money and they don't ask you any questions, don't ask them for more money or else they're going to want to input. And you talk about somebody and you talk about the MCU, there's very, very much a hand that's sitting on their shoulders, of the creative shoulders of like, hey, you need to do this. You need to make sure that you do this. And we can very much talk about how in 2014, Edgar Wright was supposed to start making Ant-Man and he just left the situation because he's like, I'm not going to conform to your rules. Like, let me just make my movies. If you don't want me to make it, then I'm bouncing. Like, and it's not like he didn't do work on that movie. He spent years of his life putting together that movie. But it's like, these people need freedom to do what they're doing. And we just talked about Tokyo Drift on the podcast, and that's a movie that came out in 2006. Is it like, I love it. It's a good movie. And there's certain elements to it that are full of style, brimming with style. And it's like, that's what takes effect, especially over time. And it's like, you have to have the right pieces. That had the right pieces, even though the filmmaking wasn't 100% yet. They literally made better movies after that. And it's like, you see the details. They were able to get better. I don't know if anybody else gets the chance to go and be better anymore because they're being hindered by the process. They're like, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Oh, you have to shoot on this camera. You have to do this. You need to make sure that you're hitting some sort of mark with X, Y, and Z within this movie, especially, let's say, big example, if it's the MCU that you have to, bring relevance to like this part of this movie and this has to connect to this and that. And it's like, you have to watch every single thing for everything to connect. And how many nerds are there out there like me that are going to watch everything and have everything connect? And so, therefore, you have to have a story that catches you up on that story. And for me, it feels like a mouthful. I'm getting confused as to what I'm saying. And it's like, there has to be a beauty within what you're doing. I'm using Denny again just because it's an example, because he was talking about it, is that you don't have to watch Dune Part 1 to get Dune Part 2, because he's kind of left a little bit in there. And I don't think there's any exposition scene where it's like, oh, in the first movie my dad died and like now I'm doing this and Linkin Park is praying. And now I'm gonna get revenge on the Harkonnens that really ruined my life.
But yeah, it's like it's just like wow. Like you see articles that come out that, like, speaking of Guillermo that just was speaking, like they can't find funding for movies. Francis Ford Coppola, like these are some of the biggest names to ever direct movies. Like Spielberg had to like beg for money for West Side Story. Scorsese had to get Apple to step in to help him do Killers of the Flower Moon because no other studio wanted to do it. And now their point is like, well, with streaming, these movies don't make money. And that's not my fault that you created streaming. You're the ones that bought into this thing that didn't really have a way of garnering money. Like if you're going to greenlight $300-400 million Star Wars projects, how are you making that much return? How you
Yeah.
making a return is you raise the subscription price. But then you see these Star Wars products, everything, or Marvel, like Star Wars, they all look the same. People are like, these movies look the same. It's like there's a reason why the studios hinder them to what they want it to be.
They are not using their budgets properly, in my opinion. I think you talked about the Marvel shows. Some of these shows cost $200 million. And I say that for every penny that you're spending, I hope that I see it on screen, right? I don't know about anybody else, but when it comes to filmmaking, I very much believe that. And I understand if you need to spend money, there's, some sort of bad thing happening, or you have to, there's certain processes that you need that are going to make your movie better. But I do not see that correlation within the filmmaking or the final product with a lot of these projects. And is it just y'all are just making this really cushy and, wasting a lot of money, where it's like, it feels like you're money laundering essentially with filmmaking? That's what it feels like. And it's like you're betraying this art form, in my opinion, in a very big way.
It's just wild that it's kind of like you say we have, but it's like the only people that are making big budget studio movies with their own style are like Nolan and Denny. That's it. Like
I'd argue maybe
Greta, maybe
James
Greta?
Gunn, Matt Reeves.
But again,
see, that's the thing. I can count them on my fingers. I can count them on fingers. And it's like every single one of these people, for the most part, if they're trying to make the movies, they have to go into some sort of IP world and then, dig 10 feet under and dig out a little hole for them to have their own novel space within that. Where it's like, okay, like Matt Reeves makes extremely human stories. He had to go and make an apes movie. He had to make 2 apes movies for me to be emotionally invested in this CG ape, where, he just had to do that to tell a Shakespearean story in Dawn for the Planet of the Apes. And that's the only way he could tell that story and have people see it, and it'd be a big budget, right? And he has to fight tooth and nail even then to tell stories like that. And yeah, of course, you got Batman. Batman's fantastic. It is another one of those human stories, but like you said, it's IP driven, intellectual property that has existed for 70, 100 years. And I think if you make adventure movies, they don't have to be IP driven per se. Like Pirates of the Caribbean is an IP, but it's a freaking ride. And they took a minuscule base, and what they did with 1, 2, and 3, that trilogy of movies, Gore Verbinski, is a testament to filmmaking. It's just like what Peter Jackson did with Lord of the Rings. It is unreal what they did. And those are properties that existed before, but they found something within those texts that really related to audiences and still relate to audiences. Oh man,
they try to do it with Jungle Cruise. It's a ride.
Yeah, they're like I said, they're trying to do something, but if you don't have the pieces, if you have the pieces and the person make, if you're trying to make a Lego set and you don't look at the diagram to put it together, you might get to the same place, but you're gonna have some janky looking pieces that where it's like, this doesn't look right. This feels off. What is going on with this? I don't like this, right? And it's like you might not be able to put your finger on it, but sometimes you really much can when it comes to something like this. And I will let you in on a detail. Last year, I actually have a video. I will send it to you. It's about 12 minutes that I cut together, like a legitimate YouTube video that I made about adventure movies. And it's something where it's like, I see and love these movies, but I have a very deep issue with the ones that they're making right now, because the correlation of how they used to be and how they are now is very different. And it's nothing where it's like you don't have the means to do this anymore. It's just you're choosing not to do this anymore. Is what it is, right? That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I think it just, again, it comes from the studios. Like the studios just, like I always say, studios don't care what it looks like, how good it is. They only care about the Benjamins. They only care about that. And with Marvel for a long time,
you're talking about Benjamin Franklin Gates?
You know, the Benjamin Franklin Gates? Yeah, that he's on the 100.
Oh yeah, you're right, guys. If you look at the back of the $100 bill, like if you have to take your $8,000 watch and give it to the lady at like Forever 21, so you could look through a water bottle, that is one of my favorite scenes. Like that little, like if that is like a treasure find, is like you said, it's almost Indiana Jones-esque, to where it's like they're just in a department store and they're doing this, and it just, the vibe is there, right? It's the music, it's the dialogue, the acting, everything comes together, right?
Oh yeah, the dialogue of, hey, can I get the $100 back? Can I try to see something? It's just like, no.
That's actually Jerry Bruckheimer's like stepdaughter, apparently. She killed it in that role. Yeah.
Yeah. Just, no. And she's like, well, here's a watch. She's like, I don't care.
I love it. But all that being said, the Oscars.
We went on a rant there.
Hey, that's what it was supposed to be. Okay. And I think it's going to be the best part of what we just talked about.
Probably. There's some good substance in there.
There's a lot of style. There's a lot of it's some ear protein today.
Your protein for someone driving right
working out. Apparently we have someone he on TikTok. He was just going through like, oh, I listen to a lot of podcasts recently since I started one myself. And I'm just watching the video and then I see Cinema Pursuit come up and I had social anxiety for like 5 seconds. I clicked off the TikTok. I was like, wait, I guess, okay, let me watch this again. And I'm grateful. I really am. So on to the Oscars. Did this movie get any Oscars? Did it deserve any? Do we even need to talk about this, Pat?
No.
Okay.
I wrote this. I'll tell you what I wrote. Honestly, no. LOL. It's just a fun ass film and still holds up.
Damn right. On to the next one. And I'm keeping that in. I'm keeping that in, Pat. Okay, because that is 100% the vibe of this movie. And I was talking about it on game night. You've already heard me say this, where it's like not every movie has to win a freaking Oscar to have fantastically well-made work.
Nope.
I will just say, we're not talking about. I didn't bring him up. Caleb Deschanel shot the crap out of this movie. Y'all probably know his daughters, like Zoe Deschanel and the other one that was on Bones. But it's like Caleb Deschanel is like one of these like journeyman cinematographers. He's done so many movies. I think he's now passed away, I think. But just those guys really knew what they were doing with these sorts of movies. And big props to him because he really brought this movie, to life. He forged it together with the film. I really enjoyed it. But that being said, it's been how many years? It's been 20 years since this movie came out. Pat, do you feel old yet? Legacies through the prism of time. Pat, national treasure. What pops up in your mind, whether it's in front of the camera, behind the camera? I mean, things have been really aging. I think they've been aging well for National Treasure, right?
I think it holds up really well. And whenever there would be discussions, I think this is how you know it. Like people still love this franchise. Even though the second one's not talked about as much as like the first one is.
True.
Whenever there's
I love it too.
rumors of the third one, like that gets a lot of engagement, like from people talking online. And Nick Cage is down to do it, but most recent rumors, I guess, is that it's not going to be made.
Page 47 from Book of Secrets. I think we need to have a sequel, guys. I love that. I love that bit of it.
The rumor was his Atlantis, so I don't know, but I think this movie, it still holds up. The only thing that doesn't hold up is maybe it's just like it's very 2000s like costume designing. That's it. Maybe that's it.
I love it. I love it. I really do love it. I think that's the whole point. It's like if you make a contemporary movie, if it passes on in time, it becomes a period piece. And whether it's we were talking about like the internet cafe or any other detail of like having to look up information.
That stuff still holds up. Even like him hacking in with like he's hacking the security cams. Like it's like I buy it still. Yeah, it still works. Like it's not.
I love all those details. Yeah, and it's in the actual heist itself. It doesn't feel like it's aged. Besides like a couple CG shots, which are 100,000% forgivable because that was the time. Besides that, it's aging aging like fine wine. That's what it is.
And who doesn't love Nick Cage?
Exactly. Actually, since this movie came out, I think, especially when I was in high school, like let's say like 2012 peak, like Nick Cage was like the meme god. There, like it's him, and then like Brendan Fraser needing a renaissance for his career.
You know why he did all those like B movies, right? Like
Nicolas Cage and his mother. Yeah.
Because he didn't pay taxes for a long time.
Oh yeah.
So he had to
and Chris Tucker and like Wesley Snipes
had to get some money quick. So he took a lot of those B like Season of the Witch, a lot of those like straight to VOD, or I guess at that time it was like DVD.
He's literally got a new movie out. He's got a movie coming out this weekend.
Oh, he's like a Western or something.
No, not the old way. That was actually produced by somebody that I know from TikTok. But the movie I'm talking about, it's The Arcadian. It's like some sort of like drama movie. Yeah. But it's like, I understand what you mean about, his career overall. But I think when he gets the juice, whether it's like a movie like Joe, Pig, what's that trippy movie that he made
Massive.
with Panatos Cosmatus or whatever?
Mandy.
That was Mandy, right? Okay.
Mandy did.
Yeah.
And A Touch of Evil, you think he did? Was it Touch of Evil? No, it was like, something Color of Space.
Oh, yes. Color of Space and Time or whatever. Yes. That's the one That's the one I'm thinking of. I thought you were talking about the Orson Welles movie.
That's A Touch of Evil. I was like, wait, no, that. And then he did like Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It's like, and then people were like, actually, like you see like one of my coworkers was like, I actually really like that movie. It's like, yeah, Nick Cage is a good actor, guys. Like, they think he's a bad actor because he's in B movies. It's like, this guy won an Academy Award. Like, he's a good actor. Like,
and I always think about that. I'm like, dang. I'm like, if I ever get funding together, I gotta call Nicolas Cage because I feel like he would definitely come onto the project.
If I was a billionaire, I'd be like Nick. First call is him and like, I'm making National Treasure 3. I'm funding the whole thing. We're making it right now.
That being said, Jerry Bruckheimer, I think this is actually the most latest news. So Nicolas Cage, he said, no, there is no National Treasure 3. If you want to find a treasure, don't look at Disney, okay? It's not there. And besides that, Jerry Bruckheimer did say they were working with some writer to get a script. And if it does work out and Nick likes it, they're going to make the movie. So it's like two different things to where I'm pretty sure, obviously, it's been like 10 plus years. I think they made the sequel in 2006, right? It's been 15 plus years. Yeah.
2007, I think. It's been almost 20.
They haven't made a movie. It's obviously, Nick is frustrated with the studio. So it's like, I hope it happens because they made that show. And it's like, I was talking about this formula. The show doesn't follow this formula. You can follow it within a show. There are shows that have done it. There's a show called The Librarians. They made a movie with Noah Weil, and then they made a show, and it's a very fun show. They know what they're doing. They're playing the tropes correctly. Everything is working with a formula. But Disney Plus, Catherine Zeta-Jones. I was talking about Marina May. We were talking about the National Treasure show. She actually watched it, and she was like, even like Catherine Zeta-Jones couldn't even save that show. And it's like the zest of National Treasure is not there.
They had Harvey Keitel come back, and I watched the whole show.
You did? Pray tell.
I've seen the show. Yeah, I've seen the show.
So if I'm raising my hand above the monitor, very, very high as I can. If National Treasure is up here, I assume that the show is like, is just very low, even lower.
It's
lower.
Low.
Okay.
I mean, I don't like ripping on stuff.
Yeah, I know. I don't either. But it's like, respectfully, I disagree with their filmmaking. Like the whole inception of this show. If you're not understanding why we're watching this movie, why are you watching National Treasure? This is an actual genuine question. Why do you watch National Treasure? Is it because of the plot? Is it because like, we have to go the Freemasons and this this treasure, and that's why you're watching this movie, right? No,
exactly.
You're watching it because it's like it's just this fun ride where it's like, yes, it's pure absurdity, and we have all these pieces together, and there's this fantastic acting that's going on that's keeping you there, and there's this fun, thrilling adventure to it. And if you don't have the adventure vibes fully embraced within it, then it's not working. And you can set it today, you can set it in the future. It could be 200 years ago. It could be in LA, it could be in Savannah, Georgia, it could be in India, it could be in China, it could be in the North Pole. But if you're following this formula, I argue very much that you could make great work with it. But Disney Plus, that show did not work out, right? Because what do you think? I haven't seen the show. I assume that the formula didn't work in that show, right?
I mean, they brought back like Harvey Keitel, and then Riley's in it as well. And then the one cop, spoiler. He's
supposed to be the villain, right?
He's like the bad guy. He's in like 4 lines in that original National Treasure. So it's kind of just like, I mean, like whatever.
They're grasping at straws.
But yeah, I mean, you could, if that show was not National Treasure and it was just some other like these kids are just finding treasure or something, like I think it could work. Like I think families would watch it. Like it wasn't terrible. Like it's fine. Like again, it's fine. But if you're putting it under National Treasure brand, you're gonna be like, this isn't good. Like this doesn't have that feel. It feels very like, why are we making this? It's like it was like a point where it's like,
if you say why are we making this, that's the worst part, right? If they didn't answer the question of why we're making this, then you've defeated the entire premise of it.
I mean, that's been a question for Hollywood forever. Why are we making this?
I will say right now, I am. Have you seen The Good Wife? This is a kind of a left turn, but I'm bringing it back.
I know. I mean, I know The Good Wife, and I think they had like a sequel show. Like, I'm very versed. I don't watch everything, but I know every.
So they made The Good Wife hit show. They made The Good Fight, another good show. Christine Baranski, fantastic show. Delroy Lindo. They had like some really heavy hitters, and then they just made another spinoff show called Elspeth. And Carrie Preston is fantastic in this show. There's 4 episodes, and I'm just like, y'all actually found a novel way of like going from like a lawyer drama and essentially making like a cop show now. And every single piece of, and it's essentially Columbo, where it's like you see the crime happen at the beginning, and then it's just our detective, our like quirky detective trying to figure out what exactly happened. So it's Poker Face Elspeth. There's a line of these new shows.
The Mentalist or whatever. Did you ever watch that show?
Yeah,
I used to love
I've
that
seen
show.
all Red John. I've seen them all. It's like I'm a fan of that stuff, but it's like they're fine. They have a formula. They didn't make these shows before, but they made a spinoff that's within a different subgenre, like different style of a show, and they still found a way to do it. And they're doing it compellingly. I would tell you to watch. I think you'd have a great time with it. And I don't feel the need to ever say that about a lot of shows, but it's like every time they make something stylistically compelling like that follows a formula in a sense, but it forges its own path that makes it compelling, it's worth checking out. And it didn't happen with Disney Plus National Treasure or whatever. I don't even want to say the name. You know what it is for me. I try to be positive about things.
I don't even remember the name of the show.
I just hope that they find their paths. What's up?
Side note with The Mentalist, you know what I loved about that show?
What?
I actually think I loved that show. Is when there'd be like the murder would happen or whatever, and then like Simon Baker would just like walk into the house that the person was, and he would just look at a photo and be like, yeah, they did it. And like he wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
But then like at the very end, he'd be like, how did you know it was me? He's like, well, when I saw the photo of you and your wife, like I knew. It's like, wait, so why didn't you just say it back then, man?
Have you seen Psych?
I haven't.
If you like The Mentalist,
keep telling me to watch that.
Yeah.
Psych
is like, if you like movie references, if you like fun shows, and you like the detective thing, it is essentially like The Mentalist, but it's just buddy cop fun vibes the entire time.
I just love The Mentalist. He would just be like, walking around, and he'd be like, yeah, they did. Yep. Give me like 30 minutes though. I'll figure it out. We'll set things up at the end.
Give me like 3 ad breaks real quick. I need 15 minutes of ads to wrap this up for you.
Simon Baker,
I hate him in The Devil Wears Prada.
Yep. That's why you know he's a good actor. Australian actor.
Aussie. So, all that being said, National Treasure. Who is the MVP, the person who you feel like they put the team on their back and this enterprise would not be there without them? The MVP. Who is the MVP for National Treasure for you, Pat?
It is Francis Ford Coppola's nephew, Nicolas Cage. Did you like that? Did you like that lead in?
I was like, wait, Francis Ford Coppola? I was like, oh, wait. Oh, yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, Nicolas Cage's actual last name is Coppola, but he does not use his family name because he did not want to be a Nepo baby. He a Nepo baby that didn't want to be a Nepo baby, so he ain't a Nepo baby to me. So put some respect on Sir. He's not a sir, but he is a sir to me. Sir Nicolas Cage. If Andy Samberg has made an impression of him and he went on his show and they did it together, then he's one of the best people of all time because he can take a joke and embrace what he is in himself. I love Nicolas Cage, and you're 100% right. If he's not in this, I ain't watching it.
We were talking essentially the whole podcast about him. So it's like he's the sell.
He's the glue.
At that time too, it's like I don't know really. He was in
Gone in 60 Seconds,
bringing out the dead. It was Gone in 60 Seconds after. What did Ghost Rider?
Before this.
Ghost Rider was after National Treasure, right?
Ghost Rider kind of killed him for a minute.
Yeah.
He had a bad, Port of Call, New Orleans, that Bad Lieutenant movie. That was
like
solid,
next or whatever.
Yeah. Drive Angry. I did like Sorcerer's Apprentice. I will say that is a movie that John Turtletaub, he made it for Disney. It's Jay Baruchel, who he's the voice for Hiccup in How to Train a Dragon. She's out of my league.
Movie, Jay Baruchel made a Goon, great movie with Sean Scott.
Yes. Goon is a good movie with Sean Evan Williams.
Sean Scott. Yeah.
I'm not into hockey. I'm not into hockey because I never grew up on it. Whatever. But I love the crap out of that movie.
Very solid, like indie, like very low budget. Like this movie's pretty good. Yeah.
Indeed.
But yeah, I mean Nick Cage. I also threw in Trevor Rabin for the score. Because I feel like the score really pulls the whole movie together. And
these movies, you need the score. Whether it's obviously we have the iconic work from John Williams, for Indiana Jones, Jerry Goldsmith for The Mummy for me,
and Rudy, obviously.
Alan Silvestri for Mummy Returns. That's an underrated one for me. But it's like there's all sorts of Trevor Rabin comes in the same sort of category of composers that really understood what this music is supposed to be, and he pulls you along for the ride. You feel like you're in the ride. If you do not feel immersed within the situation that they're in, then this doesn't work. If you just feel like you're kind of observing it, what's the point, right? You're not invested within it. And this, whether it's the scene on the Charlotte, but it's like you need the music from Trevor Rabin to make it all work, right?
Yeah. That's what I think I brought this up when we did your Back to the Future on here. Like I just feel like a lot of scores now, like besides like Dune, there's like a theme to that, but like I feel like just movies, like especially with, again, I keep bringing it up, but Marvel, it's just like a lot of those scores, like there's no like, there is a score, but I don't like hear it. Like
it feels
it's just
passable.
Like there. It feels like it's just there to be there. Like even like for this movie, it's like I know the score of this movie. I couldn't tell you the score for Captain America Civil War. Couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I don't even tell you did it.
I think Tony Zhu, Every Frame of Painting, he made a YouTube video about temp music and how using temp music kind of ruins the vibe that you have. If you're just telling somebody to go and recreate somebody else's music, you're essentially diluting what you already put on the track and just kind of making a fake copy of it. And sometimes it's like certain composers, it feels like it's just passable music. It's like, okay, this works. It's like, yeah, you're using all these same instruments, but it just feels like it's like that line from Macbeth. It's like fury and might, and it's all signifying nothing. I am feeling maybe once in a while you'll have like Alan Silvestri who comes in real deep with like Avenger Endgame and like Portal, and he really brings something to it. It's like the one of the few themes that you remember from the MCU is the theme that he crafted.
Well, even when you walk around Disneyland, you hear the Silvestri theme. That's all they play. Like when you're walking around the Avengers part, they're not playing like the Guardians music. Like they're playing the Alan Silvestri
Guardians
Avengers
I do
theme.
like the Guardians theme. That's one that I do remember. And obviously, they got so lucky with Ryan Coogler and freaking Ludwig. And I'm talking about one of my favorite memories in a theater is watching Black Panther. And you know when he's at the beginning, like after the opening, he comes to Wakanda, and then he's getting off of his like vehicle, and then like they do the salute, they do like the Wakanda Forever, and then the music stops. I'm talking about like the theater was shaking with that music. And it feels like it's almost like a science fiction movie where it's like the music, the research, the creativity that Ludwig has that we very much see in like a Hans Zimmer. It brings you into this world. It creates a new world. And we do not have enough of that sort of work where it's like throw everything at the wall. You never know what's going to happen. And I think, I don't know about you, but for me creatively, I like to throw everything at the wall. Yes, it might not work, but it's like you never know what you're going to find within that, right? And it almost feels like, it's like if you're not freaking Steven Spielberg, then as a creative of anything, like whether you're an architect, whether you're, in a business, whether you're marketing, whatever you're doing, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a garbage man, whatever you're doing, you have to have some sort of creativity within your, what you're doing and how you're planning it. And if you don't have that, if you might have to throw everything at the wall to like figure it out, but you have to try. And it feels like they're not trying anymore when it comes to adventure movies. And I genuinely hope that they watch National Treasure. Please, I beg of you, just let me, me and Pat will do it. Okay. I swear we will write a movie like this. It'll probably be better.
We'll just write National Treasure 3. Let's just write National Treasure 3.
Guys, I am so happy to announce that Jerry Bruckheimer has actually just called us and he's given us
on
a
the
deal.
Podcast.
Hello, guys.
Join the podcast.
My name is Jerry Bruckheimer, and I'm letting these guys write National Treasure 3, and it's going to be something like you've never seen before. Okay.
I'm a part owner of the Seattle Kraken.
Jerry Bruckheimer, he actually puts in his work. When he hits the producing work hard, he actually delivers some classics, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he's a good producer, very solid. He multi-millionaire, so he's doing something right, I guess.
And this is one of those
he knows what he's doing.
Those hits for him, isn't it?
He did the Pirates.
Oh yeah. He cranked it on that. And see, that's the thing I'm gonna talk about The Mummy. I'm gonna talk about Pirates of the Caribbean on this podcast, and I'm very much gonna harp on the same thing. But now that I've done it with you on National Treasure, I gotta find new material as to why I'm critiquing these movies and the processes that are happening in Hollywood today. But do you have any companion movies for this? I've been talking about a lot of movies. I've got a few.
We've actually mentioned all the ones I wrote down. I wrote down, obviously, the sequel, Book of Secrets. I mean, watch them both.
Page 47.
And I wrote down also both Mummy and The Mummy Returns, because they just have those vibes.
We do not talk about the Mummy, the Emperor movie, which it's same thing. It feels like they betrayed what the formula was, and they tried to make something else that it wasn't, right?
I own that movie because it's in the box set that I have.
Okay.
Never seen it. So Maybe one day.
Don't see it. I saw it in the
One day I'll
theaters,
see
and
it.
I've been a fan of adventure movies since I was a kid. I've seen The Mummy like 20 plus times, and I love
You're
it so
talking
much.
about the Tom Cruise movie,
Guys,
right?
I actually hate Pat. Like, I swear to God, like, why did this man even bring up that? Oh man, no. But seriously, when I watch that movie, that I will be the worst person of all time when I say this. I was watching this with my dad at home, and I was on the phone during the movie, like after an hour in, because I knew that this was not a good movie. It's the only time I've ever done it. I'm sorry, but like, I feel like almost blasphemous even saying this out loud, it's like that movie did not understand what these movies were. And literally at the end of that movie, Tom Cruise becomes the Mummy, and they should have started with him becoming the Mummy. That seems like a much more compelling premise to a movie, rather than having a whole movie to where he becomes the Mummy. And that's the thing, they were trying to craft a whole universe of like dark monster universe, whatever, and therein lies the rub, right? That's your problem, that you're trying to make a universe rather than making stories. Me and Marley, we were talking about Tokyo Drift. These movies feel like movies because they literally do not know what the next movie is going to be. Besides like Fast X, they have no idea what the next movie is going to be. They're throwing it at the wall.
With Tokyo Drift, that technically is what, the 6th movie in the timeline?
Yes.
Like,
yes, it is.
So it's like again, they didn't know when they were making that movie. That was kind of a standalone movie until Vin shows up at the end.
Yep.
Like, it still feels like a standalone movie, and to me, that's the best Fast and Furious movie. Let's be honest.
Hot take. Marley agrees with you.
Me and Nolan are also on the same page.
I'm excited for you to listen to the podcast, like the Tokyo Drift, when we had a fantastic conversation about it. For me, I will add in, I love the ones that you gave, companion movies. I will recommend the TV movies from Dean Devlin. They're called the Librarian movies, Noah Wild. There's 3 of them, very much TV movies from the 2000s. And it's just, if you like adventure movies, you can watch those and you'll be like, wait, these are actually kind of good. These are compelling. And they don't have the budget. They don't have the means by any sort of like Hollywood big budget sense, but they're giving you the same vibe that you're looking for. So I'm a champion of like little gems that I find like that, because I used to rent those, or I used to get those movies from the library, and I would just watch them and I'll be like, oh, this is awesome, right? You never know what you find like that.
You got the librarians from the library.
I didn't put that together. Guys, what a dad over here. Dad joke alert.
Yeah.
Tomb Raider, both Tomb Raiders, honestly, they kind of hit the mark. I enjoyed it, one. But that's the same problem. They're trying to set up a sequel.
Like Alicia Vikander though, and Walton Goggins. I think that's the only reason why I like that.
Same here, 100%. And Nick Frost shows up at the end of the movie. Come on, y'all made the wrong movie. You should have made the second movie first. Why y'all making origin stories for adventure movies? We don't need adventure. We just need adventure. Just give me the adventure, guys. Come on, please.
I mean, I guess we can also add the entire Indiana Jones franchise.
Of course, Indiana Jones. Have you seen Sahara, 2005? Matthew McConaughey, Penelope Cruz, Steve Zahn.
Fun movie.
Compelling work.
Is that same year, right? No,
2004. Right? No, 2005. If I remember in my head.
That was probably the studio being like, we need a national treasure.
And then Da Vinci Code came out after that, and then like Angels and Demons, like they were really turning it. I will say, I do want to recommend that book, The Lost Symbol. If you like these kind of Freemason sort of conspiracy vibe thing, Lost Symbol is from Dan Brown, takes place in DC. A little bit more freakier actually, but fun dad book read. I really enjoy that book. It's been one hell of a time without talking about Nick Cage not having any single I think he doesn't have any sort of like, guys, we have to, like, he doesn't have any sort of like, mental breakdown in this movie. There's no vibe of him yelling, which I love about this character.
He has the iconic line of, "I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence." That's the yelling in this movie, but it's quiet.
We're stealing this episode of the Cinema Pursuit podcast. That's what we're doing right here. And dude, the love for National Treasures out there. There's this YouTuber. Her name's Kaz Row, Kazrow. She made a whole 35-minute video of like breaking down what history that National Treasure gets right and what National Treasure gets wrong. And I'm like, why does someone take so much time to do that? It's only if you have this enduring love for this movie where you're like, I'm going to spend hours upon hours upon hours trying to make something about this. And I'm literally going to spend hours upon hours doing this, what we're doing right here, right? About, talking about this movie. So I love adventure movies, and I hope to find that adventure again. As she says in the beginning of Up, Adventure is out there.
And then we cry when she dies.
That was like the worst note to end on. My bad, bro. Adventure is out there. But it's kind of, whatever.
Oh, the end of that movie. Oh, we need that last shot.
Fantastic. That's how you
ends there.
That's how you do it. My name is Russell.
Oh, like I could imagine. I actually never read the script.
It's up there.
Clouds fade away.
Yeah.
See the clouds fade away, and the house has landed in Ellie's spot. And I'd be like,
bro,
if I read that for the first time, I'd be like, oh my God.
That's how you do it, man. That being said, everything is all in well in this world because we just talked about National Treasure, man. It doesn't get any better than this.
I think me and you are the only ones that have it at 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
And as it should be, There's no other rating to give this movie. It was a 6 out. It was 2 stars because it doesn't really make any sense. It's a convoluted plot. There's so much going on in this movie. Is Nick Cage actually being serious in this movie? This scene actually wouldn't make sense because how would you have this scaffolding under this church? I'm just making up fake. That's what it seems like when people complain about movies. And we do not, like, this podcast is 100% about finding the love and talking about the love that we have for movies. And we love National Treasure. And we hope you all do too.
Amazing.
Please go watch it again. Just go watch the movie again.
Yeah, just watch it right after this and then listen to the commentary podcast episode on National Treasure.
And everybody, Pat, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at PatBB8. It has no Star Wars reference. Put that in there. I didn't realize it when I typed it out.
Whoops.
You can also follow my podcast on Instagram and Twitter at T Commentary Podcast, and we are on Apple and Spotify.
Yes, sir.
Give us a 5 out of 5 rating.
And for Cinema Pursuit Podcast, do the same thing too, because me and Pat are very much, we talk a lot. We're on each other's podcast enough to where it's like we're in the same realm of very much
you're
at times.
You're a co-host at this point on mine. You're a co-host.
I appreciate it. Hey, we have a fun time, and it's nothing where it's like I got 1,000 views and this is gonna change my life and I'm better than everybody. No, it's like we just do this because we love to do this. We genuinely just love to talk about movies, man. What do you mean?
I have Christopher Nolan coming on the podcast next week.
Yes, for Batman Begins. Let's go. Let's go.
Oh, I
now
wish.
I get to tell
again. I would say nothing and just let him talk the whole time.
And he'd just be his good old Nolan self. Like, oh, we're talking about Batman Begins. Let me talk about Fast and Furious instead. I'll be like, yes, please tell me how Justin Lin's
I would love vehicle to watch
work has translated to Tenet, please.
If I ever got him, obviously that never happened. But if I ever did, we're watching Tokyo Drift. That's what me and him are going to watch together.
That would be fantastic. For me, I feel like, I don't know, me and him, we'd have to watch, I'd probably show him like an Indian movie or something like that. That's what would be like, I just want him to
he's probably seen it too. Like, yeah,
man of culture, man. He's a man of culture. And I hope everyone else is with National Treasure too, man.
Thanks for having me on. I love this. This was great.
And we will you'll be back on soon enough, Like, yo, homie, where's my briefcase? Wink, wink.
Yeah, it is. Why you want it back?
Pew, 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 pew. Peace and love, y'all. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Cinema Pursuit. Cinema Pursuit is produced by Katie Nadell, Zach Nadell, and Vikash Patel. Special thanks to Cole Cooper for the intro and outro music. You can listen to Cinema Pursuit on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you may listen to podcasts. Follow us on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Cinema Pursuit Podcast, Twitter or X at Cin Pursuit Pod, and check out our subreddit, r/Cinema Pursuit.